Hey guys, so welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Let's carry on where we left off. We're starting with a cross-examination. The beats are on the witness stand, the world's sleepiest cop over here, and his wife, who is probably a nice girl, quote-unquote. Let's see what she has to say.
It was our wedding anniversary and Rolly was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work.
So right off the bat, I feel like we're going to need to press all of her statements. Nothing really jumped out at me in terms of what we can present to her. And I feel like with Mr. Roly-Poly over there about to fall asleep, he's going to react to whatever she has to say. And hopefully that will betray what really happened that day, because she is gunning for Mr. Natsume. So let's press. No time to change after work, you say. Are you also a member of the police, Mrs. Beat?
Oh, no, sadly not. It's a job for strapping young men only. Women, children, and the elderly can't even apply.
Well, I have to say, it seems like you're very fortunate you can't apply, judging from how your husband looks right now. He looks like he's about ready to fall asleep forever. Of course, it's not right to discriminate based on gender, but certainly children couldn't do this job. They're overworked as hell, from what we've heard. Well, I think you can probably see why children and the elderly can't do the job, can't you?
I think Rolly looks ever so handsome in his uniform. It suits you down the ground, doesn't it, darling?
Doesn't it, darling? Don't you agree? She chokes him to death. What? I just finished my beat. Pat and I were heading back to the station. I was actually planning on getting changed there. Is he talking in his sleep? This is creepy.
Oh no, Rolly, I much prefer you in uniform. Sometimes, I don't recognize you when I see you in plain clothes.
Oh my god. That's not good at all.
Oh dear, that doesn't seem healthy.
No, not at all. I mean, what happens when she wakes up next to him in the morning? Does she freak out because she thinks there's a stranger in her bed? Because he's just wearing his underwear or pajamas? Kindly adhere to the point. You were going for a meal after you had finished your beat for the day, correct? That's right, sir, yes. Although, I was fit to drop, to be honest, after spending the whole day on my feet. But policy is my life, sir. As long as I'm the proud owner of this, I'll serve my city and my queen to the end. It's the Metropolitan Police Warrant Card. What's that now? It's like badges don't exist here. We've got a lawyer's armband and a warrant card for the police. My warrant card, sir. Proof that I'm a London copper. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty. To patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. Sir, and for such a noble cause, I cover 20 miles every single day without fail and without a grumble. Because I know that the plodding of my boots is all Londoners need to hear to feel safe and secure. Well, he's certainly awake now. It's nice to see that he's passionate about being a cop. Seems to get him out of his sleepy phase. So, fighting crime doesn't appear to come into it then. Oh, come on, Ryunosuke, you did say upholding the peace. I'll accept that as an answer. But sir, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. Beat puts up with a lot being married to a bobby like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care. Oh god, here comes the hopeless romance scene. Oh, Pat.
Oh, Rolly.
Just kidding.
Oh, what a charming couple. Their young love is such a joy to behold.
Not now, Susato! We can feel joy for them after we've cleared our client. Right now, she's accusing him of attempted murder. If a little over the top, perhaps. And then, kindly describe what happened next. Please let go of each other.
Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us.
We need to hear about those two silhouettes. Two silhouettes?
That's right. They were coming towards us, walking up the Briar Road on the opposite direction.
I see.
There was a rather plump figure, followed by a scrawny, thin-looking man.
It's the Danganronpa culprits. They're here. Of course, one of them's packed on a few pounds.
That does sound exactly like the victim as pictured in this print, and like Mr. Natsume.
It does. Yes, unfortunately, it does. And you're certain that at the time there was nobody else nearby?
Oh yes, quite certain. It was dark, but there are streetlights on Briar Road, you see.
Still no reaction?
There was nobody else around at all. Isn't that right, my darling?
Isn't that right? There was nobody there? Well, yes, that's right. Of course. There was a light fog on the ground. But Briar Road is dead straight and you could see a fairly long way down the pavement. And then there's the street lighting as well. I didn't see any other pedestrians. Before sleep takes a firm hold, your answer, please. Mr. Beat, are you quite sure of what you've just said? Yes, sir! As a copper who spends all day every day keeping watch on the streets, I'd swear to it, sir! There she goes, the twinkle in her eyes. I'm as sure as my love for Patricia is true.
Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly.
They're gonna do this every time I press a statement, aren't they? They're still maintaining there was no one else around other than the victim and the attacker. It's starting to seem like that must be how it really happened. Which means we have to prove that Mr. Natsume did not walk on Briar Road, he walked, elsewhere.
It's beginning to seem like there's nowhere to run.
Well, that didn't stop Mr. Natsume, did it? He fled the scene all too convincingly. Thank you. I believe we have a reasonably clear idea of the situation just before the incident now. What happened in the crucial moments that followed? Alright, I think it's about time we fast forward over to the police box. I find that quite suspicious. Wouldn't, you know, the policeman go pursue after the culprit rather than go to the police box? Was it your husband who went to fetch help?
No, I went. I may not be a police officer myself, but I am the proud wife of one after all.
She's like a military wife, except it's law enforcement.
Isn't that right, my darling?
Isn't that right? Yes, that's right. I asked Mrs. Beat to go. I was off duty by that point. But a Bobby's never truly off duty, of course, so I felt obliged to stay and guard the scene. Very laudable, Mr. Beat. Preserving the scene of a crime is a task of considerable importance. Yeah, tell that to Hosonaga. That's why I said Patricia, you see. I told her where to find the right police box. Forgive my ignorance, but what do you mean exactly by the right police box? Are we talking about a cardboard box here, or what? Depends on the crime's location, you see, as to who deals with it. Oh, so jurisdiction. Where the woman was stabbed wasn't actually on my beat. So I told Patricia the way to the police box for the beat the incident fell under, so she could go and report it. God, it's so hard to talk in a sleepy voice without almost yawning myself. I'm walking a fine line there between like accidentally yawning.
I ran there as quickly as I could and asked for help from the Bobby on duty.
Lucky he was at the police box. What if he was walking his 20 miles?
There's nothing more potent than a young couple in love working together, you know?
And thanks to your swift response, the case was quickly resolved. The actions of two model citizens, unlike the jury, who all have a collective IQ of 2.
Oh, please, you're making us blush. Isn't he, darling?
Isn't he? You'll be blushing now. Although you'll be blushing blue after I cut your oxygen off. Yes, sir. What Patricia said, sir. That animation, it's so clunky. I was just like standing up straight and then all of a sudden he just goes, oh, God, I'm dazed. Let's move on, shall we? Okay, well, there was no reaction there, but it's good to know why they went to the police box, because it wasn't his jurisdiction. It was definitely the Japanese man. Let's press that. Hopefully it wasn't statement number 3, otherwise we're gonna have to go all the way back around. But surely you wouldn't have been able to see his face by the light of the gas street lamps, would you? Uh-oh.
We absolutely could. Us Londoners have exceptional eyesight, I'll have you know.
Right, okay. Well, you also seem to have an exceptional firm grip on that scarf.
The light from the street lamps was more than enough. And my husband already told you that the fog was only light, didn't he?
I told you she was a nice girl. Didn't I tell you? Yes, and what of the fog? We're famous for it across the globe, I believe. but it's an absolute menace to those of us who have to live with it, of course.
Oh, it is. When it's thick, you can't even see the hand at the end of your own arm.
Yes, alright, I take your point. Now, could you stop shaking your husband about? I'm concerned for his safety. You're about to kill a cop, and obviously that's frowned upon. Not the fact that, you're killing a cop. Obviously, murder is frowned upon.
The constant fog makes our eyes very sharp, you see. That's why we can tell you for sure and certain that it was that little Japanese man we saw. Can't we, darling?
Can't we? Yes. It was the accuser, no mistake. The moustache, the hunched back, the cat-like eyes, the taut mouth, the snub nose. Unmistakable, sir. As far as this couple's testimony is concerned, there can't be any question. It was Saseki-san they saw running away from the scene of the crime. Well, yeah, his books have ended up there, right? So he was obviously present at the scene. We just need to judge when he was present at the scene. Looks like he was present afterwards. So that's it, is it? That's their entire testimony?
What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo?
I think we need to press statement number 3, or I need to look through the court record again. Obviously, I missed something. Well, I hate to admit it, but on hearing the testimony, it really does seem as though Mr. and Mrs. Beat saw what they say they saw. Mr. Natsume running away from the scene on Briar Road that day.
Yes, I feel the same.
So if that's true, where does it leave us?
The members of the jury are sure to call for a guilty verdict after this testimony.
Oh no. Then what do we do? Do we have to do a summation examination again?
If Kazuma-sama were here,
What are you trying to say?
I think he would try to find a contradiction somewhere else within their testimony.
What do you mean somewhere else?
Their statement about seeing Mr. Natsume is unequivocal. Calling that into question won't help. But if you could identify some other part of their testimony which appears to contradict the facts, you might be able to discredit them, to make the jury doubt if the pair's memory of the day is accurate.
Exactly. That's what defense usually is all about. We need to call into a question the credibility of our witnesses, because we need to be able to convince the jury that, hey, if they're wrong about this thing and that thing, they must not have seen Mr. Natsume that day. And that'll give us a bit of breathing space, I think. Oh, right.
Put simply, we must focus on finding a discrepancy in these statements somewhere, even if it's the most minute of details, like whether it was foggy or not.
Of course, that's probably not very minute, but you know what I mean. Maybe the color of Saseki's shoes.
If we don't, I'm afraid the trial may reach an early and unfavorable conclusion.
Ugh. Why do I seem to be so up against it? I should be a prosecutor. That job seems a lot easier.
Mr. Lawyer, sir, can I ask you something?
You sure can. Oh, yes, of course. What is it?
Well, you keep asking us all these questions about everything we've told you, so... It seems like you don't believe our testimony. Is that right, is it? Well, out with it.
Please don't beat me up using your puppet of a husband. What? No. Oh, no, it's really not that at all.
My husband's a policeman, remember? And I know what I saw. I remember every last detail. Everything. Like... Oh, I know. What about the books the man dropped?
Oh, yes, please tell me what the titles are.
I could tell you the names of every single one I could. Every single one.
Oh, this is gonna be a layup then.
And you dare to question how reliable my testimony is?
That will do, Mrs. Beat.
No, it won't do at all. I'm gonna kill my husband. That Japanese lawyer has no idea what I'm capable of.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I have an inkling.
Even if I decide to forgive him for insulting us, don't think for a minute that Rolly will.
I really didn't mean to cause offense. Please put your husband's fists down, for God's sake. I'm just trying to do my job. Perhaps you would like the opportunity to supplement your testimony, Mrs. Beat. Might that appease you? Oh, Judge, I'm sure this girl is used to getting everything handed to her.
Oh, thank you, my lord. That would settle things nicely.
Too bad you're basically handing over something that'll discredit her completely.
Wouldn't it, darling?
Good.
I could even tell you the names of the 4 books he dropped at the scene.
All right. There we go. We're done. present. I'm not even gonna look at it. Oh, shit, I accidentally looked at it. I meant to press R, not space. There we are. So, you're saying that there were 4 books? Shit, man.
That's right, I remember all of them. The picture of Monsieur Somebody, What's It Yearnings, A Meal for Someone, and the Thingummy Something.
Okay, well, let's see which one doesn't fit. Looks like it's going to be the Thingummy Something. The very last one. I'm sorry, Mrs. B. But there is a fundamental flaw in that statement of yours.
Oh no, what flaw?
Everything. Simply that, at the scene of the crime. There were only 3 books, not 4. I actually kind of got scared. I was thinking, what if I have to present this photograph here, which only shows 3 books? I wonder if that would have been accepted. Probably not.
What?
This is the receipt from the bookshop where the defendant bought his books.
Your books?
Yes, and it details Mr. Natsume's purchases that day. But as you can see, only 3 books are listed. Dumbass.
Only 3, but no, that can't be. I remember seeing them. There were 4 books, I tell you, 4 dirty old books.
Oh yeah? Oh really? Have a good look at this photographic print of the scene of the crime. As you can clearly see from this evidence as well, there are only 3 books, or are you saying Mrs. Green here ate one? As well as the knife.
But I just don't believe it. I saw them there, I swear it, I saw them.
No, madam, I'm afraid your powers of observation cannot be relied upon. You're a filthy liar. So it cannot be denied that though you say it was the defendant you saw, you could very well be mistaken.
Oh no, oh no. No!
Well, nice to see that Rolly stood up really quickly after falling to the ground there. Yes, Lord Van Zeeks. It's plainly evident that it is your powers of deduction that cannot be relied upon, my learned Nipponese friend. What? What cannot be denied is that these 2 witnesses saw the accused running from the scene. A fact that you know very well you have no hope of disproving. He's onto my strategy! Damn it! So you've striven to avert attention from that by dint of some inconsequential discrepancies. Would that be fair? He sees right through me. But your plan has somewhat recoiled against you. What are you talking about? It's quite simple. Let me explain with a toast. I mean, it's possible that Mr. Natsume was already carrying an extra book. To the policeman's wife and her entirely accurate testimony in every respect.
Oh.
You see, the matter is not up for debate. There were 4 books on the scene. At the scene on Briar Road, a total of 4 books were most definitely found.
Objection!
That can't be. But what about the photographic print? Where's the 4th book? It's behind her. It only shows 3 books. Quite right. Only 3 can be seen. In that print, unfortunately, the victim is quite wide. So she's obscured quite a lot of the footpath. That print, you mean to say there's another? Allow me to present another. One that shows the victim's hand. I don't see why they're hiding her face, though. Why? I don't believe it. The lion's pride. It's the 4th book. But it's in her hand. She's gripping it. As you will observe, the 4th book was hidden from view in the original print by the victim's torso. And that obviously belongs to her. No. No! God! Van Zeek strikes again! He's actually really good. Order! Order!
There, you see, look at that, look in your face, you filthy Nipponese man.
Yes, I saw. Thank you. At least she doesn't have the ability to strangle me. Or whip me.
It's just like I said, isn't it, my darling? Isn't it?
Yes, sir. Patricia's always right, sir. Let us study the receipt for the books purchased by the accused on the day in question. Mrs. Beat, the titles once again, if you please.
Oh, yes, of course. The picture of Monsieur somebody or other.
The picture of Monsieur Lecoq. I don't even know if that's how you pronounce it.
What's it, yearnings?
Canterbury Yearnings.
A meal for someone.
A meal for Gabriel, in fact. As the court has just heard, the witness remembers the book titles flawlessly, save for a few minor details. Oh, objection! That's not flawless then, is it? I'm now nitpicking. Mrs. Beat's powers of recollection can only be described as exceptional.
Did you hear that, Rolly? The gentleman paid me a compliment. Oh my gosh. If only he was wearing a police uniform.
Yes, sir. Flawless, sir. Patricia is flawless. But there are only 3 books on the receipt, and Mrs. Beat mentioned 4. Yeah, this doesn't compute. Don't you guys know basic maths? There's nothing surprising about that. Clearly, the 4th book is that which is shown in this photographic print. I'm sorry, counsel, but does that not seem odd? Why should the 4th book be omitted from the receipt? Because it belongs to the victim. It's not odd at all, my lord. As the photographic clearly shows, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, it belongs to the victim. The victim was holding her own book?
I wonder, what became of that 4th book?
Obviously, it wasn't overlooked by the investigating officers at Scotland Yard. I have it here as evidence. Well, I'd love to open it up. You will submit that and the aforementioned photographic print to the court, please, counsel. My pleasure, my lord. The second crime scene photograph. Second photograph of the scene taken by a policeman just after the incident that specifically shows the victim's hand. And the 4th book, a book entitled The Lion's Pride, discovered in the victim's hand at the scene. Definitely gonna need to take a close look at those. The prosecution rests. Uh-oh. He's very, very confident in his case. Alright, let's take a look real quick. Okay, interesting. Looking at the book. Looks like it's been chewed up, no? At first I thought it was just like buried under some snow or something. That's why it looks kind of misshapen, but there is no snow beneath it. And if we look at the book we've got, it's in perfect condition. No, it's not. There we go. It looked to be from the front. Alright, let's have a look.
Oh, look at this. The book has been badly burnt.
You're right. You'd never be able to read it in this state. Especially not the latter pages. What do we know? Recently caught fire? And it was by a bookshelf, no? Mr. Gorodeb was worried about his precious collection.
What a terrible waste. Judging from the scorched edges of the paper, I think the damage must have occurred very recently.
So how did it get there? Was it tossed out the window? Is the victim actually the maid? A book. Recently damaged by fire. Why does that seem to raise a red flag with me? The 4th book's information has been updated. Yeah, indeed.
Let me see. It's a book entitled The Lion's Pride.
I'm afraid I don't know any English literature at all. So it wouldn't be something I've heard. Wait a minute. The Lion's Pride? That's strange. It sounds familiar, no? I think I have heard of a book by that name before. And very recently, too. And who was kind of fond of lions?
It's a title I recognize too, Mr. Naruhodo.
Curious. I have nothing further to add. What? You seem surprised, my learned friend. But your resistance until now has been in vain. Entertaining, yes, but futile. The spurious longer route to the accused's lodgings that you try to establish in your summation examination, and the attempted discrediting of the witness's powers of recollection in your cross-examination. Futile? I walked right into this, didn't I? Looks like he was ready for us this time around.
You see, everything we've said is true.
Isn't that right, my darling? Yes, Pat. Marry me, Pat. I thought you were already married. So perhaps the ladies and gentlemen of the jury would like to reconsider their positions. Should the court waste any more time on this Nipponese travesty? Jeez, alright. Bit harsh. Or is the decision you have to make all too apparent already? You have heard all of the witnesses and seen all of the evidence. This trial has run its course.
Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid we are in a terribly precarious position.
Thank you, Susato. I didn't quite realize how dire the situation was. I know, but if I fight back in the wrong way now, I could very well just make matters worse. Think, Ryunosuke, think. What do you do now? Raise an objection. We have to. Of course we have to. I'm not done yet. No, my learned friend. It's over. That last cross-examination was your final chance to establish a credible defense, and you failed. The die has been cast. There is no more room for debate. Well, it might be over as far as you're concerned, but... Oh, I can't think of what to say. Don't just stare at me, help me! Help me, Susato! Open your blue book! Tell me!
If I may, Lord Van Zeeks, it seems somewhat boorish to close down the debate at this point.
Oh? Your insignificant little Eastern Isle must be a lawless hole indeed. Jeez. For a lowly judicial assistant to have the audacity to intervene at a moment like this. Hey, she's fucking smart, okay? Yo, don't you talk shit about my assistant. Now I'm gonna get pissed.
Oh.
Oh man, he shut her down, but I like her feistiness. I am, to my shame, still a very inexperienced lawyer. So you'll have to forgive me. But I consider my assistant's advice essential, and her opinions invaluable. Oh, Ryunosuke! Oh, what a GC.
Mr. Naruhodo.
One of this land's great guiding principles is tolerance. So the court will hear you, madam. Although, just don't apply to be a police officer, please. Go ahead, Mr. Sato. Please. As far as I'm concerned, she's earned the right. Very well. Pray, what insight can you give us? What have we all overlooked in this matter that you see fit to pursue further?
Well, the court has been presented with new evidence, but only after the last cross-examination finished.
That is true. I see. And you believe that this new evidence warrants further examination, do you?
Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll back you up.
It's just possible that this new evidence might be the decisive proof we've been waiting for. The judge is sure to ask the members of the jury to announce their leanings in a moment. And of course, he's sure to ask you to explain what the crucial piece of evidence is and why. So we must take this opportunity to examine the newly presented evidence as thoroughly as possible.
Yes, I understand. And thank you, Mr. Sato. This is it. Susato-san has managed to win us one last chance here. I can't let it go to waste. So I start with a desk slam. The defense wishes to present evidence, my lord. Very well. The defense may present one further piece of evidence, just one, mind you. Evidence that apparently offers a profound insight into this case, and has hitherto been overlooked. Right here, the fourth book.
Take that!
The evidence in question is what we can see from the newly presented photographic print of the crime scene. The fourth book found in the victim's hand.
Objection!
Of course, straight away. We have already discussed the fourth book at length. Other than it being in the victim's grasp at the time of the incident, no significance has been attached to it. Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of the court's time, as you well know. Ugh. Yes, I'm afraid, counsel, I must concur with the prosecution on this matter. When I afforded you this opportunity, You led the court to believe that the evidence in question contained a hitherto undiscovered clue. So I must insist that you elaborate, counsel. You will identify this clue at once. Okay, good. I thought I hadn't examined it fully yet or something. I thought I was about to get penalized. Do I make myself clear? Oh, yes, my lord. It's Mr.
Naruhodo, I believe the prosecution is trying to avoid a thorough examination of the evidence, which means you may very well be on the right track.
Yeah, he did seem nervous, didn't he? Yes, I think you might be right. So, counsel, precisely where is the vital clue to this case which this fourth book conceals? Precisely where? You can't see for yourself, Your Honor, this gigantic burn? As I examine it again by accident because I keep thinking spacebar is the present button. Here we go. I would ask the court to observe the back of the book in question. The back? What do you... Good gracious! It's been burnt to a crisp! So we have to ask ourselves, why was the victim clutching what is clearly an unreadable book? If it is undeniably an extremely unnatural thing for her to have been doing. Don't you think? Look at my finger! Unnatural, you say? And what of it, my Nipponese friend? Perhaps she was returning the book to the bookshop. Maybe she was going to sell it as Kindle. Oh. Were I to concede the point, if it bears no relation to the case, there is nothing to discuss. So, should you wish to assert that this fire damage is some veiled clue as to what happened that day? Pray, do enlighten us all. What truth does this charred book hide? A charred book. There is just one possibility here, which I can't quite bring myself to rule out. It's an outside chance, certainly, but worth a try. Alright, I'll explain my theory. Don't keep us waiting any longer then, counsel. Explain this theory of yours. What are you suggesting that you can ascertain from the fire damage this sorry tome has suffered? I can ascertain its owner. The shop that sold it wasn't exactly sold by Mr. Garadeb. Its owner. My lord, the burn on the back of this book reveals startling truth. A startling truth, sorry. About the book's owner. I beg your pardon?
But we already know who the book belongs to. The victim was gripping it in her hand as she fell on to the floor after all. It's obviously hers.
The question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand has yet to be answered. However, as to the questions of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defense has very credible answers. Good gracious, how could you possibly? Very well. I'll play along with this futile attempt to delay your inevitable demise, you clown. But do remember, the members of the jury may well burn you if your little gamble goes awry. Counsel, the defense's response here is very likely to influence the final outcome of this trial. So tell the court, who do you claim is the owner of this burnt book? Mr. John Garadeb, a retired army man who's the landlord of the lodgings rented by the defendant, Mr. Natsume. An old knee injury means he's confined to a chair most of the time.
Take that!
And the music stops. The answer is that the book belongs to the couple who own the house where the defendant has his lodgings. A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb. Don't you just love my finger pointing animation? That's done it like 5 times now. It's great. And fortunately for us, Mrs. Garadeb's on the jury right now. Hello, Mrs. Garadeb. Hello. Wave to her. Can you confirm that this book belongs to your husband? Yes, snake. The landlords. Oh, he seems genuinely shocked. And whether this is some extraordinary coincidence or some kind of fate at work, I don't know. But of all the people in London, one of the 6 chosen for jury duty in this courtroom today is none other than Mrs. Garadeb herself.
Oh my goodness, me?
Yeah, well, shit. I guess our jury selection process probably needs some close examination.
I think you must be mistaken, sir. I'm not Mr. Garadeb's wife. I'm his maid.
You say as you flash that wedding ring at us. Things would be so much easier if you would just drop the pretense. Alright then, how about a simple question for you? Have you ever seen this book in Mr. Garadeb's house?
I would never presume to know all of the books he keeps, sir.
Objection!
This is outlandish behavior. The woman is the accused's landlady, you say? You implicate this hard-working member of the public. You besmirch her without a shred of evidence. God, I love that word, besmirch. Don't hear it often. Your actions are unforgivable.
Objection!
I'll object to that. I can figure myself, and I can sleep soundly at night. This is not mere conjecture. The defense happens to know that on the day in question, at almost exactly the same time as the victim was stabbed on the pavement below, another incident was taking place in the room on the top floor of Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb's house. Good Lord. What sort of incident, counsel? Domestics, Your Honor. A fire, my lord. Indeed, an out-of-control flame. Afraid to say it was. Happened in the blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bally thing. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. The bally furniture started going up as well. Worst of it is, I lost my favorite. A book called The Lion's Pride. Oh, I love that pose right now. The Lion's Pride. By Jove, the very same title that's the subject of this debate. Exactly. And don't you love, like, you know, the use of words there? The Lion's Pride, a pride of lions? Yeah.
Oh dear me.
Objection!
This is risible. All you've told the court is that a book by the same name was involved in a fire. In which case, it would be reasonable to assume that it was burnt to ashes. And entirely unreasonable to infer that it magically removed itself to the scene of the crime. Perhaps it would make more sense if I told you that the cause of the fire was domestics or marital discord. Without going into details, it appears that Mrs. Garadeb was considerably enraged. Though she is not the cause of the fire, although she was hot under the collar, apparently she continued to attack Mr. Garadeb even amid the flames.
Oh, how awful. I can't imagine being so horrid to the one you love. Can you, Rolly? Can you?
Absolutely not, sir. My Patricia would never raise a finger against me, sir. Oh, of course you wouldn't. Had all my favorite old novels in that case. But as soon as the fire got hold of them, that was it. Whoosh! Up in smoke. Then the wife started hurling things at me. There was I, back up against the window, under a heavy enemy fire. Incendiary books, coming 10 to the dozen. Incendiary books. So one of them flew out the window, huh? The man had his back up against the window, and he had burning books thrown at him. Goodness gracious, are you suggesting that the book was thrown through a window and landed coincidentally at the scene of the crime?
Objection!
And she caught it just before she got stabbed? No. A thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident, and there is no report of the Garadeb's window pane being broken. That's quite true. We also saw no sign of broken glass when we visited the Garadeb household, which clearly means the window was fucking open, obviously. But is it not conceivable that the window was open at the time and not even remotely? Let us not forget the season and the chilling weather that accompanies it. No Londoner would ever leave a window open in the middle of winter. Oh, now we're just presuming shit, are we? That's conjecture. Does the defense postulate the scenario in all seriousness, counsel? Or are you just having us on and this was all a big theory? Do you earnestly claim that the book found at the scene was a flaming projectile thrown by Mr. Garadeb's wife? Hell yeah. I believe it's a possibility, my lord. Like I believe it's possible the sun will rise tomorrow. Mrs. Garadeb? There we go.
Well, I hope that everyone can see you for what you are now, you little foreign trickster.
Excuse you? Man.
You call yourself a lawyer, but you're just a coward. A mean coward.
Really? I'm busting my balls here trying to protect my client.
Claiming that our little tiff set the whole neighborhood alight, honestly. Implying that I'm merely posing as a maid for appearance's sake. How could you?
Oh, Mrs. Garrett, this never ends well, you know. You're doubling down. And once this comes out, you're gonna look like a real bitch.
It's nothing to do with this beastly case, not any of it. All you've done is sully our family's name.
No, I assure you that was never my intention. Your family's name? I thought you were just the maid.
Dragging an upstanding citizen's name through the mud simply to divert attention from your failing defense. I should box your ears, that's what I should do. It's utterly unforgivable.
Oh, you're gonna start throwing books at me, are you? Too right. I'm the one who's throwing the book. I'm the one throwing the book at all these witnesses. Too right. Here we go. How long have we sat here now just listening to this Nipponese spouting out his fancy foreign theories? But think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could possibly have stabbed the victim is that little hunchback with the mustache, and he ran away from the scene too.
I do declare you're right. It's true. Yes, what did I tell you?
Makes sense to me. Sorry. What's that? Great. Well, it would appear that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are once again in full agreement. What is your position, Lord Van Zeeks? Hell yeah. In truth, my lord, I feel these have been unnecessarily protracted proceedings. But then one must always exercise patience in order to savor the best vintage. No! Wait! The mystery of the fourth book still hasn't been... Lick my boot, peasant! If books are your predilection, my learned friend, study them on your own time. Should I put my leg up too? What? No forgive the discourtesy this time? In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will now state your individual decisions regarding the defendant's culpability for the court to hear.
Guilty!
Oh, here we go again.
Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty.
Well, you're alright, guys. There are multiple summation examinations we're going to need to get through to get us through this case. Thank you for that unambiguous response. That's twice now. It's over.
Mr. Naruhodo, don't give up.
Mr. Sato,
Have you forgotten? The battle isn't over yet.
you're not suggesting...
Of course, the defense has the right to another summation examination at this point.
I feel like we're abusing it right now, aren't we?
You could still convince the jurors to change their minds. You have one more chance.
My lord, the defense has to exercise its right to a summation examination yet again. You believe you still have tricks up your sleeve. I don't intend to trick anybody. I intend to uncover the truth. This is no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I have to stay strong and determined. Damn straight! Now let's commence another summation examination.